No DQ Galaxy. We are live with the NoDQ.com recap of Monday Night Raw for March the 14th, 2022. We have a lot to discuss, so we'll get right into it. Of course, shout out to everybody for watching, whether it's live or on demand. I appreciate your viewership and support. This week's Raw was in Jacksonville, Florida, and unfortunately, things got off to a very sad start. Right as Raw went on the air, we had the graphic pop up, the graphic that we were hoping to not see. Scott Hall has unfortunately passed away at the age of 63. He recently fell and broke his hip. He had hip surgery, but then there were complications. There was a blood clot, and then he suffered 3 heart attacks. His family decided to take him off life support. So that happened earlier on Monday. Several announcement on social media just minutes before Raw went on the air. I will discuss Scott Hall more during this stream. WWE later on in the show aired a tribute video. I'll talk a little bit more about Scott Hall then. And of course, on the No DQ review, I'm sure we will talk about Scott Hall's career in more detail. But yeah, very sad. Scott Hall, just to sum it up, big part of my childhood. I was a kid throughout the entire 1990s. So between the New Generation era and WCW, Scott Hall was a big part of both of those periods, thus a big part of my childhood. But we'll talk more about that here in a few moments. Now, Hamp Connell is here in the chat room. He says it was a good show, but he had super chatted me at the very end of the Friday SmackDown live stream. He said, I will be at Raw Monday. If Cody Rhodes no shows, it's an F-. Now, Hamp in the chat room just called it a good show. Did that mean Cody Rhodes showed up? Well, we'll get to that here in a few minutes. We had Kevin Owens start off the show, and he cut a promo to talk about the Steve Austin confrontation at WrestleMania. The first thing he said, hey, yo, paying tribute, of course, to Scott Hall. Owens talked about how he is going to WrestleMania, and he will be main eventing WrestleMania Saturday. It looked like all hope was lost, but he used his superior Canadian intellect and figured out how to get in the main event. He said that Austin will not be opening a can of whoop ass on him, but rather he will be opening a Canadian beer on Austin. And he said he doesn't like beer, but he will make an exception for WrestleMania. And then there was a cameraman in the ring. Owens finished off his little promo by stunning the cameraman with the KO stunner. Now, Maud W sent in a comment about Scott Hall. Thank you for that. And Lucy Club Studios sent in a $2 super chat. Says, rest in peace to the bad guy, Too Sweet. Had to do a Scott Hall Too Sweet there. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Yeah, this was a tough Raw to get through. I knew Scott was in bad shape, but getting the news right before Raw went on the air, that kind of took the wind out of the sails a bit, but had to pull through it. We're here tonight. Our first match of the evening was Finn Balor going up against Damian Priest. Before the match got going, Austin Theory came down to the ring. Balor hit a running drop kick right off the bat, but Priest was able to quickly gain control, and he busted out the move that he's been using for a while. It's no secret. Damian Priest has been a big Scott Hall fan. He's been doing Razor's moves and taunts for years. He did the Razor's Edge onto the announce table. Balor was able to make a comeback, but then he ended up going after Austin Theory because Austin Theory got on the apron for a distraction, Balor went after Theory and then got back in the ring and was hit with a reckoning. 1, 2, 3. Priest wins. So I guess Priest gets a rematch at WrestleMania, but stupid babyface Finn Balor getting distracted and losing the match. And then afterwards, Austin Theory attacked Balor with the ATL and then took a selfie, of course, because that's what Austin Theory does. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat, says, why doesn't WWE have plans for Seth Rollins at WrestleMania? Well, I'm sure there is something brewing with Seth Rollins, and we will talk about that here in a few moments. I'm feeling like what we want to happen at WrestleMania will happen, but again, let me get to that here in just a few moments when we talk about the Seth Rollins stuff. Shanti with a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Says, shout out to Cameron Stewart for that stunner sell. I did not even pay attention to the sell, really. I just thought, this is odd that a cameraman's in there filming the promo. That never happens. And of course, there was a reason, because he was going to get hit with the stunner, but I'll have to go back and watch it and see if it was anything out of the ordinary. Mr. Anderson with a $2 super chat says, what was the point of having Austin Theory at ringside? The point was to let people know that he's facing Pat McAfee at WrestleMania. Really, that was the only purpose of him being there. And I guess he's technically on Raw and is looking to cause trouble. He's a young, arrogant man that needs to make sure his face is seen on Monday Night Raw television. Other than that, I have no idea. Dustin Herrick sent in a $10 super chat. Thank you for that, Dustin. I appreciate it. Says, Austin shows up in a beer truck at WrestleMania advertising his new brew, and the bad guy was also my entire childhood. Haven't hit me this hard since losing the Ultimate Warrior. Rest in peace. Yeah, I could definitely see Austin getting a cheap plug for his beer, and this one definitely hit me hard. I think Dusty Rhodes and Roddy Piper hit me at a similar level, and that was 2015. Can't really think of any that hit me as hard as those. Piper, Dusty, Randy Savage was a big one. Ultimate Warrior, of course. Moving on here, we had Seth Rollins backstage, and he had no comment about what he's doing for WrestleMania. The crowd did a Cody chant. This was in Jacksonville, Florida. We did have a Cody chant. And then we had Omos versus Commander Aziz, the battle of the big men. Not much to say about it. Omos pretty much dominated. He bum rushed Aziz out of the ring, clotheslined him over the top when he got back in the ring. Apollo got on the apron, tried to interfere. That did not work out. Aziz, briefly, with the distraction to help him, he attempted a suplex, but Omos reversed it and looked pretty impressive as he hoisted up Aziz. Almost lost him, but he did hold him up there and then dropped him, and then finished off Aziz with the tree slam. And then afterwards, you had Apollo being attacked as well by Omos. The big push of Omos continues. Don't really care that much, but they're committed to Omos. I'll give them that. We'll see if it amounts to anything. I'm not sure if it will, but time will tell. TJS thinks that Omos is winning the Andre Battle Royal, if they even do it this year. Funny, they actually have a guy that would be fitting to win it, and then this is the year that they don't do it. Now, they didn't do it last year because of the pandemic, but you would think they would do it this year, and they got a guy that can win it. We had Zelena Vega versus Liv Morgan. I mean, just a filler match to set up the tag team match at WrestleMania. Carmella got on the apron. Notice a pattern here. People getting on the apron quite a bit during this show. But Rhea Ripley went towards her. She got scared. She jumped into Corey Graves' arms. So that was, I guess, funny. And then Liv Morgan hit the Oblivion, picked up the win. tag champs lose another match, whatever. I mean, the sooner those titles are off of them, the better, quite frankly. Clayton, the Specialist Williams, with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Clayton. Says, I feel Cody was going to return tonight, but the death of Scott Hall was more important, but they're still teasing the return. And yes, we will talk about the Cody stuff. And it's quite possible that they may have changed things at the last moment, but we definitely had Cody teases on this show, which I'll get to here in a few moments. But thank you for the super chat. Backstage, Owens tried to hype up Rollins, give him a pep talk, said, to quote Scott Hall, tough times don't last, but tough guys do. I think it's bad times don't last, but bad guys do is the Scott Hall line from the Hall of Fame. But Owens tweaked it a little bit and told Rollins to think, use some creativity. And then Rollins, the light bulb went off in his head. He had an idea and he was very happy. He walked off. It looked like he was gonna make that announcement. And before Seth Rollins came to the ring, we had another recap of the MSG incident with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, and a recap of SmackDown just because. We then had Seth Rollins come down to the ring. He had his plan. He said he wants his best friend out there to make the announcement. So he brought out Owens, and Rollins had this idea of him doing a show with Steve Austin as his guest. Owens said that's not a good plan. There cannot be two talk shows at WrestleMania. So then Rollins challenged Owens to a match. Owens said no. But then Sonya Deville arrived and she said basically tough shit. She didn't say that, but she likes Seth Rollins' idea. So that's the main event. The winner gets to host the talk show segment with Steve Austin. That was the big hook for the end. And of course, people thinking, well, does Cody show up at the end and cost Rollins the match? Dustin Herrick sent in another $5 super chat. Thank you, Dustin. I appreciate it. Says, Seth will have a plan each week to get to WrestleMania and fail until the week of when Cody is seen in the crowd and they get into it. We'll see. Maybe next week. Raw is in Chicago. I do have a theory about maybe why WWE is waiting a week, but I'll get to that at the end. And Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat, says, why not do recaps before sending guys out to the ring? I agree with you 100%, man. I am not a fan of this format where they bring a guy to the ring, then they got to show a bunch of recaps, and then 20 minutes later, whatever the guy came down to the ring for, he finally does. It's really obnoxious. Like, you have the guy standing there in the ring for 20 minutes. Not a fan at all. I really would like it if they stopped doing that. It bugs me. I get triggered by it. So we had the Mysterios versus the Hurt Business. No entrance for the Hurt Business. Before the match began, Miz and Logan Paul came down to the ring for commentary. That's another thing, another pet peeve of mine. When you have a match and then before the match gets started, somebody comes down to the ring for commentary. Like, change the format up. Have them already at the commentary desk or have them sitting around for 20 minutes waiting to do their commentary. How about that for a change? We had Miz and Logan Paul doing the commentary, and with the Hurt Business getting no entrance, you pretty much know how this is going. Double 619 to Cedric Alexander. Dominic pinned him with the frog splash. And then afterwards, Miz and Logan Paul attacked the Mysterios, but Rey was able to fight back. Logan was all by himself. However, Miz was able to pull out Logan before the Mysterios could hit the double 619. Segment was okay, I guess, but didn't really do much to get me excited for WrestleMania, I must say. My excitement level is the same, like 4, maybe 4 at best. We had Edge come down to the ring for another promo. He has new entrance music, and thankfully, it's not Def Rebel. So relieved that if they're going to change his song, they did not go with a generic Def Rebel song. Instead, it was a different Alter Bridge song called The Other Side. And I really like it. I think it's a good change. It's a slower paced, darker song. And I think it works for the heel turn. And at the beginning, he says, "You think you know me? You never did." And he talked about being the benchmark of WWE, how he's better than everyone. I wonder if that was a little reference to CM Punk and MJF talking about being better than people. He says the people don't matter to him. He took his eye off the prize, and because of the fans, they were the ones that caused him to have his tricep torn by Randy Orton, losing his Universal Championship opportunity due to Seth Rollins, Rollins pissing on his territory, and that Aquaman cosplayer, as he said, Roman Reigns, stacking him at WrestleMania, a guy that cannot lace his boots. And then Edge said that if AJ Styles faced that Edge at WrestleMania, Styles would have left Edge in the dust. But that Edge is dead, and if AJ Styles makes it to WrestleMania, he will be judged. Great promo here from Edge. I thought this was fantastic. Maybe the best thing on Raw. Hell, I'm going to say it. Best thing on Raw this week. This got me more hyped for WrestleMania. So to me, that makes it the best thing on Raw, because not much else on this show got me hyped for WrestleMania. Clayton the Specialist Williams sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Says, it would be funny if Logan Paul betrayed The Miz at WrestleMania. Would not shock me if he does. I could definitely see something like that happening, just for Logan Paul to go off as a babyface in the end, and Miz gets embarrassed, and the typical stuff. I could absolutely see that happening. Logan Paul taking out the Miz and siding with the Mysterios. Although, would that turn the Mysterios heel? I know a lot of people don't really like Logan Paul, so we'll see what they do. But I could definitely see that scenario playing out. We had a Bianca Belair backstage promo, and she said she was going to use Dewdrop. Yes, Dewdrop. 3 months ago, they had the final chapter match, and then they had another match in February, which I guess was the new beginning, and they had another match on Raw this week. I guess it's the Dewdrop blood. Maybe in 2 months they do Dewdrop takes Manhattan. 4 months from now, they do Dewdrop goes to hell. They're just going to keep doing these rematches. Same song and dance. Nikki Cross was out there. She was getting involved, typical interference. And Dewdrop missed a cannonball on the outside of the ring. Match went back and forth a little bit. Bianca hit the KOD. What a shocker. She got the KOD on Dewdrop. Oh my God, I can't believe it. What a shocker. Anyways, after the match was over, Becky Lynch attacked Bianca Belair, wrapped her head in a chair, and then used the braid to throw Bianca into the ring post. And they did this big injury angle with Bianca to set up the WrestleMania match. Good angle. I liked it. I wish they would stop doing Dewdrop versus Bianca, but I did like the angle that they did with Becky. So I'll give this a slight thumbs up for the post-match stuff. BTH with a $2 super chat says, what's so special about Cody Rhodes? He's boring. I think he's a hell of a wrestler. I think he can work a style that is safe and can tell a story without having to do a ton of moves. I think he can cut a really strong promo. Perfect example, that one before the Full Gear pay-per-view in 2019, when he said he went from undesirable to ungoddamn deniable. That was a fantastic promo. He can make a connection with people, both in the ring and on the mic. I think Cody is a really solid performer. And maybe some would say he's not a match for AEW. especially with all these other people coming in, and they really have that emphasis on the high spots, and Cody's more of an old school grappler. But I think Cody does a great job at everything he does, and we'll see what happens with him, where he turns up next. Clayton the Specialist Williams sent in a $2 super chat, says, I know Omos appearing at WrestleMania, Veer, or opponent. He knows Omos's opponent at WrestleMania, and that will be Veer. I mean, that could happen, but I think Veer needs to debut the night after Mania. Like, if he doesn't debut at the night after Mania, what are we even doing here? He would get, I feel like he will get this massive pop if he shows up the night after WrestleMania. Like, those fans, those night after Mania fans, they will go crazy for Veer if he debuts the night after WrestleMania. They got to do it. The Game is on 100 with a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, Bianca got what she deserved from Becky, lived it, or loved it. Not sure if it's lived it or loved it, but yeah, Becky got a little bit of redemption for what happened with the hair whipping a few weeks ago. I wonder if they're going to do a hair match at some point, Becky versus Bianca. Might as well. They've been making such a big deal out of the hair. Maybe Becky goes bald. That would be interesting. We had Randy Orton and Matt Riddle come to the ring for their big celebration. And Dustin sent in a $2 super chat just to answer him real quick. Could they be replacing Bianca with a legend? No, that was just an angle to build heat for the match. It's going to be Bianca Belair in there. They're not screwing around with that. And Mr. Anderson sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Says, tonight's Raw was exciting, just like the release of the WWE 2K22 video game. Not sure if he's being sarcastic on that one or not. And apparently a lot of people like the new WWE 2K22 video game. So maybe he was being serious. Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says, Veer debuts only for Elias to attack him. Yeah, you might be on to something there. And Elias has been gone for a while, and he could show up at any time. You never know when he might make his return to spoil the big moment from Veer. Could very well happen. Anyways, we had the celebration from RK-Bro regaining the tag team titles. Orton talked about how this will be his 18th WrestleMania. That is crazy to think. 18 WrestleManias for Randy Orton. Wow. Anyways, he said this might be the sweetest one of them all. He actually has a tag team partner, somebody who's his friend. The two of them hugged. And then Orton said because Riddle threw a party for their first tag team title reign, it was only right for him to do a party. And there were some balloons there. He had a gift. He said he searched high and low for this gift. But then the Street Profits came to the ring to spoil the party. And they issued a challenge for WrestleMania. Orton said you cannot just win one match and get a title opportunity. So the answer was no. But then Ford said they are past asking for a match. They are demanding it. And Riddle talked to Orton and said, you know what? They gotta have a match. They gotta face somebody, and it's the right thing to do. So they talked it over, and then Randy Orton did accept the match. And then the Street Profits threw a little bit of shade, said that the party is ass. And that's when Riddle said he doesn't want to wait till WrestleMania. And we had a match. Riddle versus Montez Ford. Riddle was doing the Randy Orton stuff. He hit the draping DDT. He went for the RKO. But Ford avoided it at first. Then on a second attempt, Riddle hit it. However, Otis showed up before Riddle could make the pin. He attacked Randy Orton. Chad Gable on the other side of the ring attacked Angelo Dawkins, and then Otis attacked Riddle, causing a disqualification. And then Otis hit the Vader bomb to Ford. Gable hit a moonsault to Ford. Guess we're getting a tag team triple threat match at WrestleMania. That is what it certainly looks like at this point. Clayton the Specialist Williams says, with $5, thank you for that, says, Cody could also return Raw after Mania and confront Roman. Hey, I did bring that up a while back, that maybe that could be something for post-WrestleMania. A crazy idea that Cody wins the WWE title, and that's how you get the WWE title back on Raw. But I'm not expecting that one to happen. I would be okay with it, though. We still got to figure out who Seth Rollins' opponent is before we talk about possible post-WrestleMania scenarios. We had a tribute video to Scott Hall, and I did say earlier I would talk a little bit more about Scott Hall. He had one of the most intriguing characters of the 1990s. The new generation was not one of the better periods in wrestling. As a matter of fact, it was one of the worst periods. Like, people say how bad WWE is now, but 1993 WWF was pretty rough. Razor Ramon was one of those few bright spots. He took that character, that Scarface-like character, and he really made it work. The presentation, the promos, the accent, the toothpick, everything clicked with it. And he had good matches, too. He, at the time, set the record for the most Intercontinental title runs. He had that classic ladder match with Shawn Michaels. They had another great ladder match at SummerSlam 95. And then in 1996, he went over to WCW, that Memorial Day Nitro, the first 2-hour Nitro, and he dropped the bomb. It was crazy because he came out there and acted like he was part of WWE. And people believed it. They thought he was working for the competition, and that was not supposed to happen with him coming out there on Nitro. You people, you know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here. That promo was just so great, and it really laid the foundation for what was to come with the NWO. Scott Hall definitely helped with the cool factor, making the NWO a credible faction and just making it something you wanted to be part of. He had that swag. Kevin Nash did too. X-Pac and Hogan, of course, rubbed off of them, but Hogan was reinvented. And I think a lot of it was due to the influence of Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. And thus the NWO was born, and they took wrestling in an edgier direction than it hadn't been before. And of course, the story about Hall and Nash getting the guaranteed contracts, and that really opened the door for other wrestlers to be able to get those guaranteed contracts. Wrestlers started to make more money as a result of Hall and Nash taking that chance. I mean, no doubt a chance. They were making the money, but their whole act could have bombed in WCW. They took the chance, they jumped over, and they made history. And the video package WWE did, very classy as always. They always do a great job with those video packages, and I'm sure they took some of the footage that they had put together for like the Hall of Fame video packages, so probably did not take too much work. Thus, they were able to get it up very quickly, only a few hours after he passed away. And he will definitely be missed. And the story of his redemption, too. We all know the history of Scott Hall out of the ring, the demons, the many downs that he had, but he was able to turn his life around. He got inducted into the Hall of Fame twice. Not many people have been able to do that. And he lived longer than people were expecting. He was somebody who was able to rise up from the ashes and got that recognition and got to be honored by people and be admired. Anyways, we'll move on here. I'm sure we'll talk more about it on the No DQ review, but I definitely wanted to take a moment and pay tribute to him. We had our main event segment. Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins. Now, we did the same type of segment here where Owens comes down to the ring, and then we got like 15 minutes of other stuff. We had a recap of their whole storyline, and Rollins cut a promo. We had a recap of what happened to Bianca Belair, and then we had our match. Rollins tried to take the win right away. They started arguing with each other. They were trash talking, went back and forth here. At one point, Owens almost got counted out, but he made it back in. Rollins hit a frog splash, but Owens kicked out. And then he kept yelling, "I need this, Kevin." Owens made a comeback, hit a superplex. Rollins kicked out of that. Owens then went for a swanton, but Rollins got his knees up. Crowd was chanting, "This is awesome." It was going back and forth here. Rollins then went for a roll-up, but in the process, they almost knocked over the referee. The referee slipped to the outside of the ring. Rollins did the roll-up, but the referee was late in making his count. And Owens kicked out with that little extra time. And then Rollins went for the stop, but he missed. Owens hit the stunner. 1, 2, 3. And that was Raw. At this point, we were like 1 minute before 11 o'clock Eastern. Match was over, and I'm thinking, well, don't think we're seeing Cody here. And yeah, the show just went off the air with Rollins distraught. But, and I told you guys I would mention this earlier, the little tease for Cody. Corey Graves on commentary said that Seth Rollins' WrestleMania dreams were dashed, and they have turned into a nightmare. He used the terms dreams, dashed, and nightmare in one closing sentence at the end of the show. If Cody wasn't showing up, why would they do these subtle teases? They know people will pick up on them, and it'll be all over the internet. So, some people are saying, well, WWE should not get any hate for not bringing in Cody because they never promised it, but they're dropping the subtle clues. We've been getting these clues for weeks now, and I think we're getting Cody. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I have a theory. This was not a great Raw crowd. They were in Jacksonville. It would have made sense. It would have been poetic to have Cody debut in Jacksonville, of all places, but this was not a great crowd. Jacksonville is not a big WWE market. Next Monday night, though, they're in Chicago. Chicago is a major WWE market. If there's going to be any city where Cody gets a huge pop, it's going to be Chicago. So I'm wondering if they decided to wait one more week, milk this thing. They're really hammering it home that Rollins has no match for WrestleMania. We'll see. I still think Cody is going to show up for WrestleMania. Like they got nothing else for Rollins. they really got to go with this because they've been building it up, and there were the Cody chants, which were not turned down. If anything, I felt like they were turned up when you had people chanting Cody during Rollins' promo. Psycho Jet Black with the $2 super chat says, if it's not Cody, what's the backup plan for Seth? That's the thing. I don't have one. They didn't even tease anything else for Seth Rollins. They're just making it clear Rollins has nothing for WrestleMania. So I'm thinking it's Cody. I'm thinking they decided to wait one more week. And maybe the whole Scott Hall situation made them think to delay it one more week too. That's also a possibility. But you know what? Nobody really knows at this point. At this time, I think we just gotta wait and see how it plays out, because every day it seems there's a new report. Cody's in the plans for WrestleMania. Cody's not in the plans for WrestleMania. Cody might be in the plans for WrestleMania. He might not be. I mean, it's really been crazy how back and forth these rumors have been, to the point where I wonder if people are being fed information just to stir up the rumor mill. Walter Cruz sent in a $5 super chat, says, rest in peace, Scott Hall, a.k.a. Razor Ramon. He had one of the best themes, and they really protected the Razor's Edge. I don't remember anybody kicking out of it. You might be right on that one. I do not recall too many people kicking out of the Razor's Edge, if anybody. And yeah, the entrance music was great. The attire, the logo. I mean, they really nailed it with that character. One instance where everything pretty much clicked. Like from the beginning of when Scott Hall came in, it just felt like he was a big deal. I mean, this guy was the diamond stud in WCW. He was basically a nobody. And he came in, they put him in there with Randy Savage right off the bat, and it felt like he was at their level. Like the whole presentation with Razor Ramon, he felt like he was at the level of Randy Savage and Mr. Perfect and Ric Flair, just by the whole presentation of the character and how he pulled off the character. Mr. Anderson with a $2 super chat, thank you for that, says, Seth added to the Priest and Balor match at WrestleMania. I don't think so. I would be very surprised. That really makes no sense whatsoever. I think there's a better chance he just completely gets left off the card. I mean, maybe that's the backup plan, that he actually gets left off the card and he can whine about that for the next year. So, all in all, I thought this Raw was okay, very average. You know, not much to write home about. Your typical scenarios with the people getting on the apron and the people on the commentary and the distractions and all that stuff. I would probably give the show a C. Edge's promo was the highlight in my opinion. The Scott Hall tribute was a nice touch. Main event was fun, and they keep you wondering what's going to happen next. So it was an okay show, but I probably would not recommend this Raw. I think it was very much just your run-of-the-mill show. And to be fair, it was also difficult to get into also because of the circumstances with Scott Hall, but I would say it was okay. But at best, maybe watch the YouTube clips. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I really do appreciate it. And if you want to hear more about Scott Hall, I'm sure on the No DQ review this Thursday night, we'll be talking about that. Lots of other topics as we get closer to WrestleMania. Thank you all for supporting NoDQ.com. Say yes to NoDQ.com. Stay tuned to the site for the very latest news and rumors. Enjoy the rest of your week. And on that note, I will see you guys next time.